Kia ora tātou, nei rā te mihi kia koutou I tēnei wā, mō tō tātou hui, I tēnei kaupapa, te waka tūmata nui o te kaunihera tai o ki Waitaha, me te rohe o Waitaha hoki, nei te mihi kia koutou, ki ngā memo te tepu nei, Neil, Nigel, nei te mihi kia kōrua, ki ngā kai mahi hoki, nei te mihi kia koutou, ki ngā memo te hāpori e mātakitaki nei, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou. He karakia timatanga o tātou nei hui. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hea ki ana te atakura, he teo, he hoka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. So kia ora everybody, welcome here to our meeting for the Regional Transport Committee Hearings panel. This is our deliberations on the Canterbury Regional Public Transport Plan for 2025 to 35. Declare the meeting open. Sorry we're a bit late for people that have been waiting for us if you're watching online or anything. But we're here now and we've got our quorum, so that's great. So welcome to the meeting. And let's get on to it. So apologies. I think we've got apologies from Mayor Murray Black. She couldn't be here today, but that we've still got our quorum with Mayor Nigel Bowen and Mayor Neil Brown and myself at the table. Do we have any conflicts of interest with the papers that are on the table? No, that's good. Let's carry on. So we're on to item 4, which is our minutes, 4.1, and that's on page 9 of our agenda. And this is from our panel meeting that was a while ago now. We have to jog our memories a little bit to take ourselves back to November. But you may remember the submissions we had at that time. So we've got the minutes there on page 9. Any questions or anything about the minutes, Nigel or Neil? No, you happy? So we'll put the resolution that we confirm the minutes from our Canterbury Regional Transport Committee Hearings panel on 26th of November. Yeah, moved by Nigel, seconded by Neil. Any discussion? Don't think so. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. So we're going to move on to number 5 now. This is our major topic for the meeting, 5.1, and this is the actual deliberations part of it. And so we've got Len and Stephanie and Sonia at the end of our table. So I'll hand over to you guys, and you can introduce the massive piece of work I know that we've been going through. So thank you, and we'll take our time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tēnā koutou. We're here obviously to look at or consider the draft or the revised draft of the Regional Public Transport Plan that's we've pulled together following on from the hearings panels that you had at the end of November last year. It's been a while since the end of November, and a number of things have changed in the public transport sphere. So we'll deal with that in the next over the next couple of minutes. I just want to say it's a bit of an apology or a bit of a housekeeping thing. You'll note in the agenda document itself we've done a mock-up of the draft plan, and you may have been somewhat surprised to see there's lots of red ink and red changes in there. A lot of those are to do with I guess typos and little changes to things like we're calling, instead of calling it the national ticketing system, we call it Motu Move now, and things like that. So don't be concerned, but there's a number of red marks in the document. It's not that big, and if you read the actual officer's report that accompanies the thing, we're really reasonably specific in the officer's report, and that we're saying there are not a great number of changes to the document as a result of submissions. So just to make that clear, the page, I think it's 18, I think, of the actual agenda has a thing, a page that's called Reader's Notes, an attachment. Sorry, is it? 19, there you go. This is the trouble with having 2 agendas, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Page 19 covers what we call Reader's Notes, and that's got a wee synopsis of what we are actually proposing and what we're looking at, and in particular it focuses on table 5.1 of the officer's report, which lists the recommended key changes to the draft plan document, and a lot of those have come about through updates to align with the guidance that we've received from NZTA on a number of issues, including the increasing the private share of public transport operating expenditure, which was a discussion document that came in. It actually dated the 18th of November 2024, which was, I think, roughly the day that we actually had the hearings for the draft RPTP. So there's lots of externalities, if you like, that we're trying to reflect in the new draft plan as well. So there's that. There's issues such as the changing of references from sustainable public transport framework to changes to the Land Transport Management Act, and there's also changes in terms of the information we've received again from New Zealand Transport Agency and the government in regard to the National Land Transport Program and what the government is paying for and not paying for. A lot of that is covered within the officers' report, and we've made those changes in the mocked up draft. So that's why there's a lot of red. We've obviously also dealing with issues such as passengers travelling with pets on buses, and that's also covered in the document. And so essentially, the process from here, I'd imagine, would be to for you to consider. Before we move on, the panel this morning, we had the Greater Christchurch Partnership Committee. Obviously, Greater Christchurch Partnership Committee are looking at the Greater Christchurch elements of the plan. This Regional Transport Committee hearings panel was looking at the broader Canterbury elements. Greater Christchurch Partnership Committee this morning in their meeting went through the document, and they made, I think, five amendments to the plan, and we've just brought them up on the screen there. One was related to the vision of the plan, and the vision being the vision statement in the plan, and they suggested that they replace the word seamless with the word accessible, and that just essentially the point being there that they felt accessible was a better term than seamless. Now, I think if it doesn't make a large material difference to the plan, to the vision itself, but it's probably a technical detail that you might like to consider. They also considered changing policy 1.3 for on-demand services to include a consideration of a new service where population density and general urban conditions would support successful on-demand services. That's possibly a good change that suggested by them, because the policy 1.3 relating to on-demand, the way the policy was written was very much looking at on-demand as being a change to existing services, and they're basically saying, well, hang on a minute, you're missing a trick here, and that what about you could put on-demand into new places. So that was a good suggestion there. And they've also suggested trials and innovation policy 1.8, include looking at, and this was a very Christchurch specific example, looking at the leveraging capabilities of national ticketing solution to review fare policies and zone options. For example, the investigation of a Christchurch Central City zone, another reasonable sort of suggestion. And they've also made some comments regarding the policy 2.8, customers travelling with domestic pets, to include adding additional actions for the monitoring of the usage of those services, i.e. the number of pets, I guess, getting on and off our buses, which is good, and also using that information and using it to regularly review the conditions in the Metro Code of Conduct, which is what basically will drive the operations of that policy. And on page 80, policy 2.9, accessible infrastructure and services, they were concerned about the visibility of the destination screens on our buses, and they made some suggestions on that and changed the wording slightly on that. So those are the changes, if you like, from this morning. Nothing overly dramatic, but you may or may not wish to be aware of those. So we're they're up there on the screen, and we can go through that. I guess the best thing we can do from here, from a procedural point of view, is let you people go through, and we can be here to answer any questions you've got as they turn up. So,
thank you, Lynn. Thank you, team. Any other thing you want to share, or is that we're good? Okay. Do you have a question, Neil?
Yeah, dude. Just on process, the GCP, did they submit to the plan?
No, the GCP were dealing with the other parts of the submissions that came from Christchurch City and South Waimakere. So we're going through the same process in parallel. So
Okay, right.
their recommendations ultimately will go back to ECAN, who signs off the final plan later in the year.
Okay, so they're contributors to this plan. They're
Yeah.
not submitters, so that's why the GCP's in here.
Yeah, the GCP, is the governing body for that part of the plan.
Yeah, okay.
And then they're feeding that through to ECAN, just like we're feeding through our submissions to ECAN ultimately. So it's good to be aware of those things. I don't think the staff are saying we need to approve those changes. It's just good for us to be aware of them. We could have a discussion on them if we wanted to. But yeah, that's feeding into the process that way. We're feeding this way, and then ultimately it comes together. I think it's in July. That it's aimed to go back to Environment Canterbury, because we're waiting for then the annual plan process to all be settled and sorted, and then it'll be finally signed off in July. I think that's what I understood.
Yeah, that's good understanding of the GCP, because me and Nigel and ourselves are probably unaware of what GCP does, mostly.
Yeah. And the GCP, of course, has Christchurch City, Waimakere, Selwyn, Environment Canterbury, as well as there's Whakakota. He's a partner of that as we meet for GCP. But for the panel part of it, it was just the elected members. Is that right? Yeah. And Naito, who's there as well. Yeah. Cool. So any other questions? So I've just got a few. So just to note, so we've got, like you said, on page 19 it is, those four main changes that we've got. Like you said, there's the updates from EZTA, the updates for the SPTF, that whole thing, changes from submissions, and then changes in relation to the NLTP. So all of those parts make up table 5.1, and then 5.2 in the document is really about, grammatical changes and all that. And like you said, there's a lot in there, but they're all just to make the document better. And then as attachment 5.1.2, which is this thing that people are looking at, has got the little red boxes to tell us those changes that are outlined in the tables and in line with the recommendations from your report. So yeah, just good to have that clarity. And then of course those discussions around the GCP hearing panel this morning and how they have looked at it and made those changes. As you said, I think as a discussion piece, pretty good updates from that committee in terms of what they've heard from the feedback, and in particular for the Greater Christchurch part of it, they make a lot of sense, so that's good. In terms of a few questions I had, so sorry, I'm just looking through my document here. I think, noting that most of the way through you've made recommendations that we don't change the policies part of it, other than those ones that we just heard from the GCP. I'm just interested in the pets on buses, but really interesting feedback we've got around that part, which is good. So there's a lot of support for the policy to go forward in terms of having the pets on buses, so that's really good. And then just differences of opinion about how you make that happen in terms of the conditions that get laid down for that. Have you got any comments on that, team?
I guess what we can just give you some preamble about the level of pre-engagement that was done, perhaps. And so we took quite an exploratory approach in the beginning when we started to talk to communities about passengers travelling with pets on public transport. So we had some workshops with our PT stakeholder reference group and our accessibility reference group. And we approached it really openly and just had a good conversation with them about what concerns they had. We also talked extensively to bus drivers and bus operators to get their sense, so both management staff and drivers themselves, and surveyed them to get their background. We talked to, off the back of the conversations that we'd had in the workshops, we talked to an allergy specialist, and we followed up further with people from the Muslim community who could give us some sense of cultural beliefs and impact on travelling with pets on public transport. So just to give some scope of those two reference groups too, they represent other groups in the community. So the Accessibility Reference Group represents organisations who work with the accessibility community in the disabled space specifically, and the PT Stakeholder Reference Group is a much wider group of people from a wide variety of areas representing specific communities out there who have a specific interest in public transport. And that information that we gathered during that early stakeholder engagement process really helped to shape the public consultation that we went forward with. We also were able to talk to all of the different PTAs where pets are available, but pets can travel on public transport, and they shared all their information with us, including how they'd operationalised it. So we've got a good sense of how that went in all of those different places.
Cool, thank you. I'd picked up that in some of the feedback there, like it was pretty even in terms of the feedback in the carriers and with the leash and the muzzle. So that, it was pretty even, like one of them was 51%, I think, with the leash and muzzle, and the other one was 50% support for the carrier. So that's going to be an ongoing thing, I think, we're going to have to work through. And I know that I think the policy that we are recommending in the plan keeps it at a generic level at the moment with that to be worked through. Can you just explain how that works operationally after this process, after the policy gets, or the plan gets?
Yeah, so through the Regional Public Transport Plan process, what we're looking at is approval for the policy. So you'll see there that the policy is passengers are permitted to travel with domestic pets on public transport with appropriate conditions in place as identified in the Metro Code of Conduct. So essentially, if the policy is successful and goes through into the final version of the plan, we'll then work internally to look at what our code of conduct is. We've got some really great feedback through this process that feeds directly into that code of conduct. We obviously need to do some work with drivers. We need to do quite a lot of work with our communities. So that process sits outside of the RPTP process, but just for visibility of how that would work after this process.
Thank you. Just another question I've got is around the sort of you see feedback throughout the submissions around, and this largely in Christchurch, I know, but could refer to Timaru as well, like how people want to see extensions to routes and services. But of course, that's a separate process as well. Can you just explain us a little bit about that and how that relates to the policies?
Oh, sorry, I didn't turn my mic off. Yeah, absolutely. So where you'll see there's areas that it states it's outside the kind of remit of the RPTP, lots of it falls into different operational procedures. And so what we've done is taken that feedback and we'll feed it into those processes. And we're going to make sure that, so all submitters have received a email or confirmation of the process that's been followed. So they're aware of this meeting today. We'll also send up a follow-up email to them, just making them aware of where this feedback specifically kind of fits so that they know that we've heard that feedback and actually how it will work through some of the operational procedures. Particularly in this example, when we're talking about service and network changes, that's all going to feed into the development of the PT Futures business case. So that should start in June of this year, hopefully for completion by June 2026. And that's really, really rich information that we'll be able to kind of utilise. As part of that process, we will be undertaking a network review and we will be going back out to the community, but obviously we'll be able to kind of reflect the feedback that we've already heard through a number of different channels, this being a key one.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? Nigel? The only other one I was thinking about that's come up more recently and probably might be outside of the scope is there anything in here about the vehicle trust stuff? Because we've had a bit of feedback more recently from some of the vehicle trusts in terms of their ongoing issues with funding and all that. Is there policies in here?
There is a policy. There's a high-level policy on how we deal with vehicle trusts and what sort of criteria there are to run them and set them up. It doesn't deal with the I guess the financial side of that, which is because the finances are a grant from ECAN, and that's obviously set through our annual plan, long-term plan
so
discussions.
We can deal with that later at ECAN. All good. No worries. Thanks. Thank you, Len. Cool. I don't have any other questions, so let's go to the recommendations then. So if we can bring them up. So there they are. We've got 4 recommendations to look at here. So the first one is about considering the plan that we've got in front of us and the recommendations in that report from the hearings report. And then we've got to approve the proposed amendments, which is obviously all the tables, 5.1, 5.2, and that document with the red boxes in it, of course. And then that we recommend to the Regional Transport Committee that it endorses the plan, and then delegates to the Chief Executive of the Regional Council to make any of the those minor changes that come up after that. So do I have a mover for that? Mayor Nigel, thank you. And seconder, Mayor Neil, thank you. Any discussion that's required? No? All good. And look, I'd just like to acknowledge, like I did at the start, for all the work that's gone into putting all this documentation together for us for the process. And I know the Greater Christchurch Partnership panel had a whole lot more submissions than we had to deal with, but it's great to see that they've had a good, fulsome discussion this morning and then made a few changes to that, so that's really good to see. So I just want to acknowledge all the work that's gone into it, acknowledge our mayors for driving up this morning and being here with us this afternoon, so thank you for that effort, and we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? And that's carried. Thank you. So that moves us right through to the next meeting. And that's the last meeting of our little panel. But we will have, of course, the Regional Transport Committee to have soon. So this will come back to us there, I'm assuming, at our next meeting. So thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, look, I just want to echo your words and thanks to all the staff involved. I think the process was, really, full, robust, and people had a great opportunity to submit and be involved. So, it's a long process, isn't it? I just really appreciate all the work that goes behind the scenes. We come, flash in the pan, and obviously this has been a pretty quick meeting, but we do just like to acknowledge all the work and thank you for that. So, cheers.
Thank you. And acknowledge all the submitters too, of course, that put a lot of time and effort into giving us feedback, especially from those agencies and members of the community. So, yeah, awesome work. So I'll declare the meeting closed at 1:40 and just do Karakia to finish that off. Unuhia ki te uru tapu nui a tāne, kia wātea, kia māma te nākau, te tinana, te wārewa i te arataka tū, koe rā e rongo, whakiria ki runga kia tīna, haumie hui e tākia. Kia ora koutou. Thank you.